SportsVoice.
Hello and welcome to Sports Voice. My name is Sammy Krimstein. I'm here with Claire Connor, and we have three incredible first-time guests. Before we get into any of the sports, we're going to go left to right, introducing everybody. We'll start here on the left. Introduce yourself.
All right, my name is Charlie Jacobs. I'm really excited to be here, and I can't wait for a great show. Got an hour lined up, great slate ahead, and also let's go Mets.
My name is Jonah Mcclure. I've heard so many great things about SportsVoice, and
I love to hear that.
I'm so excited to be here.
All right, yeah, I'm Pierson Strandquist. I'm also excited to be here. I like everything the guys already said. It's gonna be a great show. I'm excited to talk to you guys. So.
Yeah, we're excited to talk to you guys. Claire, how you doing today? Super excited. I know last week you weren't able to make it, but we're glad to have you back.
I'm doing so well, Sammy. I'm so excited to be back here with all of you. It's been a really great week. I mean, we've had unbelievably good weather here in Evanston, much better than my freshman October, where it was already snowing by the time you got to mid-October. So.
Watch out. Be ready for the Halloween snow, though, for all you freshmen, because we did get the Halloween snow last year.
Be ready for the Halloween snow. I have to say as a disclaimer that I am not ready for the Halloween snow. That is.
I'm being from Los Angeles, of course.
I'm from Los Angeles. It's really not factored into my plan. It's gonna snow and it's gonna snow. I won't be ready for it, but I'm ready to not be ready, and so I think that's all you really need to be. But the Dodgers are, they're in the playoffs. Hopefully going to the World Series, getting some thumbs down here. People want a Subway Series. People,
it seems so.
for some reason, hate the idea of the best player in baseball and the second best hitter in baseball right now going against the best hitter in baseball. I'm not really sure why they don't like that idea. I love that idea. I'm a Dodger. Go Dodgers. So that's kind of how I'm doing this week, I guess. I really didn't answer the question there, but I'm doing great, Sammy. How are you?
No, I am doing good. The Bears had a bye this week, which I know that we have two fellow Bears fans here with me. And that excites me a lot. These are my guys right here. Go Bears. No Bears today, but it's okay. That doesn't mean I still have things to do. We will be talking about that later in the show. Don't you worry. But this weekend I did have another Chicago area football team to root for, and they did not do well. That was our very own Northwestern Wildcats. I know you were there. Were you two at the football game?
Of course, yeah.
Yes.
Of course, awesome. Okay, let's just get 0 to 10 vibes after that game.
I feel like I just expected so much better than what happened. After the Indiana game, I didn't expect them to win, but it felt entertaining. I had a good time there. Northwestern put up a decent fight, but then this week there was no moments where I felt confident in the offense or the defense or the coaching or really anything. So I feel like a solid 2.1 out of 10.
I echo that. I thought that they had a chance. Wisconsin didn't look that great in their previous games, but this was a statement win for them, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get some votes for the AP poll this week after that statement. Northwestern, in the Maryland game, their secondary looked so much better, and then they just reverted right back to, the play that they've been having, which is just honestly poor. And their supposedly elite run defense also kind of failed, and I'd say that those are the two biggest things, along with, honestly, I thought that, Lau should be doing a lot of checkdowns and scrambling, which he did, but he also made some great passes that were dropped. So, because of all that, the second that safety happened, I'm usually the type of person to stay for the entire game, but I was just kind of lost all vibes after that, so I'd say pretty low.
Sorry, a little bit of mic malfunction there.
You guys can kind of scoot
Okay.
over if you want, so you can all be in and out. There we go.
All right, so for me, this game was not fun necessarily, but it just goes to show you how weird the Big Ten has been all season. Oregon beat Ohio State last week. They're now ranked number 1 in the AP poll. Indiana's ranked ahead of Alabama for maybe the first time ever, and College Game Day is going there, which is just insane to think about.
How about it, yeah.
And then, this Northwestern team did not look good against Wisconsin after destroying Maryland, and there's been some moments in each game even the wins, where you look at how the players have tried to take a step up and they've tried to change how they've been playing, but the play calling isn't really following that. And I think in order for this team to be successful, the play calling needs to evolve with the players starting to mesh better together. And against Maryland, it wasn't needed as much because of the defensive, just the overload of defense. But in this game, yeah, there was no stopping Tommy Walker and that Wisconsin offense, even though they didn't put up as many points. It was more of a blowout than the score says.
Yeah, it just an unfortunate game because you feel like they were in it that first half, and then quite the questionable play call there at the end of the half, to say the least. What are our thoughts on that? What was the first thing that ran through our head? I know I was a little bit confused there with 40 seconds left, right, and or something like that, less than a minute, and Northwestern, in the shadow of their own end zone, decides to pass it and inevitably gives up the football right into the hands of Wisconsin, who made it a 2-possession game right there. So what were your thoughts when that happened?
I don't have any thoughts anymore. I'm just kind of expecting it at this point because there's been about at least one bad play call a week with this team.
Yeah.
And just the timing of this one was not great. You look back at the Duke game, there was a similar one where Mike Wright and I forget who was in the backfield on that play, but they ran into each other and then we ended up losing that game. Then the Cats ended up losing that game because of it. But yeah, it's one of those that for fans you try to just move on, forget, on to next week.
At first, I wasn't necessarily upset because it seemed like Jack Louch had been continuing some of his momentum. He looked confident with some of his throws, especially when his receivers got open. And even when they couldn't get open, he put the ball in a place for them to catch it. So when they set out on this drive with very little time, I had a little bit of confidence that they would be able to try to move down the field. Maybe they weren't going to score any points, but they were going to have some momentum going into the half. But I wasn't necessarily surprised either. It was kind of an expected outcome in terms of Northwestern football this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say Lujan reminds me, as a Bears fan, of Luke Getsy. They have the L connection there. I mean, the play calling just seems uninspiring almost. It's like every single time I'm questioning, like, I feel like I could have done better, and I'm in no way qualified to be an offensive coordinator of a college football team, but even just, like, I feel like someone who's just looking at a very face level, I mean, it's just mind-boggling, honestly. I mean, this team overall has been mind-boggling. A lot of the decisions that have been made have just been a little questionable, and I'd say, like, every time they do something good a week before, they kind of, like, forget they still have to keep doing that good when they try to do something else good. So it's like there's always something that they're missing again. So,
All right, so one more question here on the football before we move on maybe to some more inspiring subjects, right? Do you guys think that this Northwestern team can scrape together 3 more wins to get bowl eligibility? They're at 3 right now, and there's a chance you could get in with 5. What do we think? I mean, it's because the schedule coming up is not great.
no, not at all. I mean, I would say on face level, Iowa and Purdue at least look beatable, but I'd also say that, I mean, again, it's away games, and especially like Purdue, they're known for being good at home against the Big Ten. So I would say that I'm not super confident. I mean, I would hope, if all things go considered, I could see them winning against Iowa, Purdue, and then maybe even Michigan. But I mean, Illinois and Ohio State are so hot that, like, those would be the 3 they have to win. And to say that Northwestern has to beat Michigan to make a bowl game is just something that any year I don't think you could be that confident in.
I think, like, what we saw from Iowa this week was a little bit promising for Northwestern's sake. They did not look great against a average Michigan State team, but then again, it's still Iowa, and if you just look at their team at face value, they just have a better defense and a better run game and a more well-rounded approach to football than Northwestern does. So I think, obviously, you never know what could happen, but I think it is very unlikely to see them get maybe even 2 wins out of these last 5.
I think there definitely needs to be some injury luck on the side of Northwestern in terms of some of these other teams. I don't think this team could go into Iowa City and beat the Hawkeyes a week removed from them losing, but then the week before they put up 40 points on Washington, and Caleb Johnson looked like the second best back in the nation. Yes, Ashton Genty's on a pedestal, but after that, Caleb Johnson has been awesome. Caleb Johnson was held in check against Michigan State, but Michigan State also had a weird game where their kicker, Jonathan Kim, set a school record, making 6 field goals and missing the 7th to end the half. But in the second half, Iowa's offense looked better. Other than there was an interception, but a lot of their drives, touchdown, and then some weird stuff with penalties at the end when the game was already out of reach. But not just the Iowa game. Purdue, that's a winnable game. Michigan, I think, is maybe more winnable than Iowa because Michigan is just flat out not good this year. Yes, their defense has 2 star players on it, in Will Johnson and Mason Graham, and just their whole D-line is pretty solid. But other than that, this Michigan offense is really disappointing. Donovan Edwards was supposed to be awesome. He's been not anything special. And you look at Ohio State, if the Cats score in that game, I will be impressed. And yeah, you look at Illinois, rivalry game. Cats won last year. Illinois this year is having a good season. And a lot of these teams have really good running games, which is what the Cats have been really struggling with this season, even though it looked more promising earlier on.
Well, I certainly agree with all of you about kind of the unlikelihood of getting to a bowl game for the Wildcats this year. They faced a lot of tough opponents in a really difficult schedule. I think the hope for this team is that they can pull out with maybe a couple more wins, particularly against Purdue and against Michigan, which although they've fallen flat this season, I think it's a fun idea for for anyone in the Big Ten to sort of think about beating Michigan, the previous year's national champion.
Let us dream. Let us dream. Go Cats.
So, we can dream. I think what we can sort of realistically think about is the fact that a tougher schedule this year will hopefully, sharpen a team that really seems to need it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, after a summer in the weight room and with more sort of development, especially, that offensive line, maybe you pick up a few more guys. The Cats have had great, recruiting classes, especially looking at the future of that quarterback position. Kicking is, a cause for concern for the Wildcats after a few of these games this season. So there are a few areas where things look like they'll improve. And it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out for them.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next of our men's sports, men's soccer, really, kicking back into gear toward the end of this season, had a tie against Wisconsin and a nice win against Michigan this week. So I guess our question here is, does this team still have tournament aspirations? They've been playing better. How much do we see this carrying into the rest of the season?
I was at the last game on Friday, and I feel like the Cats looked pretty good. But then I also looked at the schedule the other day, and it made me feel a lot less good. They are going to Ohio State and to Indiana, who in their last 10 games have a combined 2 losses, which would be very difficult for Northwestern to beat. Indiana's top ranked in the Big Ten right now, and Ohio State is the hottest team in the Big Ten. So I think if they want to look towards the Big Ten tournament, they would have to pull off a miracle upset against one of those, and then they play Penn State at home to end the year, who have not looked great. They're 3-5-2 in their last 10, but I think even if they can win that game, they would need some great luck on their side to feel good going into the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the Michigan game was a great win. I mean, being there it was super cool to get that upset. But honestly, like at the start of this year, it shouldn't have been. Like the tie against Wisconsin, those were 2 teams that were ranked at the start of the season, and now both Northwestern and Wisconsin are in the bottom half of the Big Ten. So it just shows how varying and dynamic the poll can be, especially for something like soccer, where it's really such a long grind to get through the season. I was talking to my friend who's on the team. He's freshman Michael Ramirez. And he was telling me how getting some of those young guys involved, he said that him and some of the people who are coming in the incoming class have been told that they're going to be more involved in the next few games, especially considering how maybe some of the older guys and veterans have been underperforming. So we'll see if that makes a difference and if that energy can come and help them. I mean, they've been having a ton of subs. I think in Michigan it was at least subbing in and out within the same players, just getting subbed on and then subbed off afterwards. So they're really trying to keep fresh legs, and it looks like that strategy might be working. So taking advantage of how lenient the NCAA is with substitutions could be crucial.
I'm not the most knowledgeable. I'll be honest about Northwestern men's soccer, but I do know that this team is maybe getting hot at the right moment. They just need to continue this. And if you win out this year, there's 3 games left, I believe. And if you can go on the road and get some big wins, get yourself in the tournament, you get a shot. It's just like in any sport. If you're in the tournament, you have a shot, even if you're underdogs. I mean, you see it in college football this year. Underdogs have been awesome.
Yeah.
You see it in the NCAA basketball men's and women's tournaments. There are always upsets. And baseball, there's always upsets. Soccer's the same. There's always going to be upsets, especially when it's just one game. It could just be one kick, one penalty, and that could change a team's whole season around.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is, I don't know if one of you guys mentioned this, but like this is the first time they beat Michigan in a long time, and like a number of years. That feels good for a team that like I think was searching for that big win. You had a lot of opportunities to do so, and it was they were playing close matches, right? I mean, it just like cards just falling the wrong way for them, and yeah, like it feels really good. And this is a team that if like Charlie you're talking about, if they get hot right here, this is when they can make a run. And I mean, with the kind of talent they have, with the reputation they had heading into the season, they can absolutely sneak in the tournament and do damage in the tournament, right? It's about who's hot once you get to any sort of postseason. So really looking forward to that. And we're going to end our NU Sports Roundup on field hockey because we like to end things on a positive note here in Sports Voice. They, prior to this week, really, it was like an endless stretch of ranked opponents, just a gauntlet for Northwestern field hockey with each defending national champions. You know, that's what you're going to get. And they took care of business. They won a lot of close games, but they won those games. They have still yet to lose this season. And then now here to wrap things off, they're starting to get some easier opponents before they head into the postseason. So how do you guys think this plays into their favor heading into what they hope will be a NCAA tournament run that defends their title?
I actually think this might be a bad thing for them because they can fall victim to a trap game. I know they're undefeated right now. The rankings, they should be ranked number 1. I still don't know why UNC is ranked over them. I'm pretty sure they still are. But this team, especially you have 2 Olympians. Ashley Sess has been incredible this year. And all these players, when you go to the games or you're watching highlights, they're having fun. And you don't always see that in sports when a team's not doing well. These girls on this team, they're enjoying themselves. Whenever they score, you could see it even when they're playing. You could see it in their faces. You could see it on the sidelines that they care about being on this team. They play hard for their coach. They play hard for each other, and they want to win. And if that competitive spirit goes awry a little bit because they're playing an easier schedule towards the back end of the season, that could mess everything up. And all it takes is one slip up, and you could be done for the year. Yeah. So just stay focused, stay on top of things, and most importantly, enjoy it because that's what's been a huge driving factor behind this team's success.
I feel like I'd actually go in the opposite direction to say that this is a very good thing. I was at the game today doing some photography, and Northwestern went up 8-0 at the half. They did not slow down. They pulled their starters just for a little bit and put them back in, kept their foot on the gas against a not very good UC Davis team. And I think they understand how talented they are and also the community that they built within their team. And I think regardless of who they're playing, they're going to keep their foot on the gas and because they want to stay undefeated and keep that momentum going through the entire year into the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd also argue that this isn't necessarily an easy end to the year either. I mean, Michigan is second in the Big Ten, and Ohio State has a winning record. So, I mean, it's not going to be easy in any way, especially going to Ann Arbor and Lansing in a row. So 2 away games in their last 3 games of the season, and within like a 2-day rebound. Like, it's going to be very quick for them. It was good to see UC Davis is not a good team. And so for them to beat them that handily was a very good sign because, like Jonah said, that they're not giving up and they're not like just putting the foot off the gas just because they can. And I also agree with Charlie. Like the other reason why Northwestern has more first place votes in the poll, 26 to 23. but they just don't have as many second place votes for some reason. So, I don't know why that's it. It should just be first place votes equal first place, but I don't know. But I think that if they win out, they'll be number one, and going into the tournament, that'd be amazing. So keeping that in.
At least be favored.
Exactly.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely Pierson. I think this is a team that Cats fans can absolutely trust them to keep their foot on the gas. It is truly just unbelievable how dominant they've been throughout the season. They had a tough schedule to start the year, and they made it look easy, and they're continuing to do that against other teams. There are a lot of Northwestern teams, cough cough, men's basketball, that sometimes will play down to the level of their competition.
Yeah, this is true.
Field hockey is not one of those teams. And against a not so hot UC Davis field hockey team, 8-0 after the half. That's not a performance that you see from a team that's just out there having fun. They're there to play. They're serious competitors, and we can expect that for the rest of the season. And Sammy, speaking of serious competitors, I think we have our own serious competition coming up on Sports Voice, and that is, and you know it if you're a familiar listener at this point, that's Pick'em. It's kind of an ultimate competition of humor, question answering, and pandering to me, which are some of my favorite things, quite honestly. But basically the way that Pick'em works is that we are going to ask you guys 3 questions, all of them sports related, all of them hopefully fun to you, and you can answer. There's no right answers. There maybe are a few wrong answers, but we're looking for answers that make us smile. And then we'll assign a winner to each question based on your answers, and you'll all get points for that, and we'll tally the points at the end of Sports Voice with this and our other game to declare a night-long winner. But, our first question, a little bit of baseball, a lot of exciting stuff happening in the playoffs right now. There's a lot of conversation about genes in athletics and sort of what genes might lead certain people to be better athletes than other people. But if there is a clutch gene, Juan Soto was showing that off last night. 2-out, 3-run home run, send the Yankees to the World Series for the first time in 15 years. Pretty clutch if you ask me, but we want all of you to pick another clutch moment from any playoff in sports. So we'll start with Charlie on the left, and we'll make our way around.
This doesn't just have to be baseball, correct?
It can be anything.
Any sport you want.
Any time too, or does it have to be this year?
It can be any player, any era, any sport.
Any player, any sport, any time, go for it.
I'm gonna go. This actually is it's tough because there's so many sports and we only get one pick, correct?
You get one pick, absolutely.
Okay. So I think I'm gonna go with football, and as a big Giants fan, I'm gonna say the helmet catch was
right.
the clutchest play in not only NFL history, but one of the clutchest plays in sports history, because you ended an undefeated season. Plus, it's just an unbelievable play that should not have happened.
I know they get a lot of hate, the Kansas City Chiefs,
Deserved.
for the refs and other moments in some of their games. But Patrick Mahomes had his second worst career year as a starter last year, and then in the playoffs just is a different beast. Won his 3rd Super Bowl MVP, beat the Niners, beat the Bills, beat the Ravens, beat the Dolphins. I don't see why he's not a top 5 player in the NFL already.
Okay, I'll preface this first of all. I don't think Jerry Reinsdorf is a watcher of Sports Voice, but I'll say please retire Derrick Rose's number.
Amen to that one. Amen.
Yeah. And so that'd be my pick. In 2015, going against LeBron and the Cavs, and getting that buzzer beater. Obviously, the Bulls didn't end up finishing that, but
Yeah.
It's just moment. It's just an amazing moment, and to do that against a team and against a player to the pedigree of LeBron, the 2nd best player of all time, I'd say completely unbiased too. But yeah, I'd say that was just such a high moment. And for me as a Chicago sports fan, even though that was like the start of when I started watching, that is just like such a memorable moment for that to be paired with the Blackhawks win, the Cubs World Series. Like that was a great time, 2015, 2016. So
amen. All right. We will reveal our winners at the end, because there's 3 good ones there. All right, next up, We talked about this earlier, but 3 of us Bears fans here. Bears are on a bye this week, so
So sad.
very sad. So the topic of this next pick-em question is, what is the best thing to do on a Sunday when your team is on a bye? And I guess this can also be when your team is playing like a Monday night or a Thursday night game. But like when the Bears or the Giants or the Bears.
Sammy is really confused because he doesn't know what my NFL team is. And to that I say, I'm really confused because I don't know what my NFL team is. Because I'm an LA sports fan and I feel like I only got them pretty
Join
recently.
the Giants
But
bandwagon.
I gotta say, I don't know. I've been having a lot of fun with the Chargers
Okay.
this past couple of years.
Well-
So, and they were sort of the San Diego team. They were the
That's
team
true.
that never betrayed Los Angeles, that never left. So for now, you can say Chargers. But I also have to add that to this question that the one answer you can't give us is homework. Probably we all go to Northwestern. That's how we should be spending a bye week. This is a sort of more aspirational space, and so homework is not allowed.
So we'll go we'll start with Pierson and go down.
I don't know, I mean, my easy answer would be just laugh at the other teams who are playing because they have to play. But I mean, I would say realistically, I'd say honestly it's an opportunity to watch other sports, right? Like, my Sunday is defined by football, right? As an American, that's kind of just what life is here. But,
Yep.
like, for example, today I was able to watch the Chelsea-Liverpool game, and if the Bears were playing, I probably would have prioritized that. Not the result I wanted, obviously, but I would say that just, like, giving the opportunity, watching other sports, obviously just, like, and also, like, rooting for your fantasy team, I guess, would be my answer.
As a Bears fan, I hate the Packers. So today, I was doing some homework, but I was also constantly checking the Packers score
Hate watch the Packers.
and was very
Yes.
That's a great answer.
when they
That's a
won.
great answer.
So, hate watching not any other NFC North teams, just the Packers.
Yeah, you could do the rest of that.
Amen to that.
I like
man.
I actually do think the NFC North has been so fun to watch this year, but that's besides the point. As a Giants fan, the past few years, it hasn't really been the most fun. So when I do, especially when I'm at home, not just at school, even though I have been doing this at school, when your team's on a bye week, same thing as every other week. Red Zone, 7 hours of commercial-free football with Scott Hansen.
Valid.
Can't hear any better words than that.
Those are definitely some pretty great words. I have to say, Jonah, have you heard the joke about the Vikings fan, the Packers fan, and the Bears fan taking a hike? Have you heard?
Unfortunately, I have.
Yeah, there's a joke that a Vikings
I have not heard
fan.
this joke.
I'm
Well,
gonna
maybe
tell
I
it so
have.
Sammy can
Okay.
hear it. There's a joke that a Vikings fan, a Packers fan, and a Bears fan are taking a hike, and they're all trying to prove to each other, just how intensely they love their teams, and it literally gets to such a crazy point that the Vikings fan says, "This is for the Vikings," and then he jumps off of the mountain that they're on, and he lands safely in a bush, maybe we'll say, but that was just a very daring thing for him to do. And the Bears fan then gets up and says, "This is for the Bears," and he pushes the Packers fan off of a cliff.
Yeah.
And so that's your Sunday.
Well, there you go. I
The
think
Lions haven't even seen the Super Bowl.
They will.
this is true.
No, they won't.
Yes, they will.
Hey, you're a Bears fan. Come on, let us
They
get
will
back
in,
to the promised land
20
first. All right, guys, last one, and I think this is a fun one because I'm guessing, are we all in the Dill here, right?
No.
You're not? Both of you?
He is, okay.
I am.
But we're on WNUR. We're all
Yes.
sports journalism
Yes.
kind of people, right? We all, I think we would all say we are enjoyers of sports journalism. So, in the spirit of the Woj announcing his retirement, maybe that was last week. I'm losing
It was a
track of
couple
time.
weeks ago.
Yeah, it was
Sammy, that was
recently.
a month ago.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know,
Couple
man.
weeks, month.
My perception of time here is not great. Well, recently he announced his retirement. In that spirit, pick a sports journalist or broadcaster, writer, anybody who has GOAT status like Woj has.
I think I gotta go with Adam Schefter. I wake up in the morning and I see that he is breaking news at 3 in the morning. He's always got his 2 phones. He's always making sure I know the sometimes least significant but also the most significant news in sports, and I just have to shout him out for that. He
Yeah.
might be my GOAT.
For me, I'd say fellow Chicagoan, fellow Northwestern Wildcat. I'd go with Michael Wilbon.
All right, go Cats.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'd say, obviously, obviously love Schefter, Pass, and all the equivalents of Woj. But I'd say that for me, like, I watch Pardon the Interruption a lot, and so him on that, and then the Northwestern connection as well, for me, just means that he is there. So
So one thing I will say about Schefter is that a lot of the news he reports isn't always his, because there's some really great beat reporters all over Twitter if you look for it, and unfortunately my notifications get blown up by that every single day. But I think my answer, it's between two. Honorable mention to Kevin Harlan, but I'm going to go with Bill Simmons.
he's the go broadcaster, Kevin Hart.
Kevin Harlan's amazing, but
Kevin
I
Harlan's
love
great.
Bill Simmons. Bill Simmons, I mean, I know from my parents and from other people that when he was a writer, he was awesome, and people used to love his stuff on ESPN, and he's hysterical. And the empire he built with The Ringer, he doesn't just do sports, but he does so many other things, like talking about movies and just current events and just what he does and what he's accomplished. And if I'm happy with walking and listening to a podcast, like a 2-hour podcast, at least 3 times a week, and it doesn't even faze me, sign me up.
Known NBA 2K commentator, Bill Simmons. He goes on there. So that's what.
And Kevin Hart.
And Kevin Harlan.
Of
So
course.
there you go.
All right, I think it is time to announce our winners. I guess we could go one at a time. Do you want to start? Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, okay, I'll take this one. I asked the first question. Sammy and I, we've been deliberating a little bit over text.
Oh, yeah, secret.
To talk about the winners. It's a really secretive
This is top
process
secret.
here.
Yeah,
It's top
confidential
secret.
stuff.
People have tried to hack into it, actually. It's really complicated. It's really difficult to do. Thank you, Apple, for protecting our text messages. But we have decided that Pierson takes the first question. We think you have a really great description of a specific moment as opposed to just, like, a general idea of a playoffs, and that particular specific moment was the most excellent of the 2 specific moments that were mentioned. And so we went with Pierson for the first one.
Appreciate it.
All right, second one, I gotta go with Jonah. I mean, like, hate watching the Packers. Like, what else is there to do on a Sunday if the Bears aren't playing? That is, I used to have a shirt. It was like I root for the Bears and whoever beats the Packers. So, yeah, I was fully behind that one. And for question number 3, I'm gonna go with Pierson again because I apologies to Charlie. Y'all have an opportunity in our last game with draft day, but I gotta go with Wilbon. I think he's a legend, Northwestern guy, and he's been doing it for a while. And I think there are definitely some sports talk guys that can be a lot, and I think Wilbon finds a way to kind of maintain and kind of keep his composure out there. So I'm a big Wilbon fan. And now it's time to get to some national sports talk, which I think we've been very much waiting for because we had a huge night of baseball last night. The Yankees start spreading the news, people. They are going back to the World Series. Juan Soto we already mentioned it earlier, but one of the clutchest moments you can have on a baseball diamond. I mean, late in the game, ALCS, tie ball game, 3-run bomb. Just electric. The second greatest postseason moment to ever occur in that stadium. The first, of course, being in 2016 when the Cubs won the World Series there, obviously.
Yeah.
But seriously, I mean, Yankees going back. It's exciting. First time for them in 15 years. Thoughts? How do we feel about the Yankees being back in the World Series?
As a New Yorker, my one thought is that good for them, I guess. I mean, Judge likable. I'm a Mets fan, but Judge is kind of likable, and I can't wait for Soto to be a New York Met next season.
I'd say this, not a Met, a Cub, for sure.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I said to all my Yankee fans, I'm like,
Mets
thank you
got the
for
money.
thanks for warming him up for Wrigley Field next year.
Steve Cohen has the money.
He has the money, but I mean, does he
Jed
have the-
Hoyer has the heart and soul.
Exactly.
We're not getting Soto. I'm delusional.
Yeah. I gotta be honest. I in this playoffs, for me, how I am viewing it is, I want a former Cub to win, and so honestly, the Guardians didn't have a former Cub, and so even though it would have been cool to see like an upset there, like Rizzo, Stroman, I guess Leiter, but I mean,
Yeah.
he hasn't been playing his best. But
No, yeah, Leiter's not been that
the
guy.
Leiter Rizzo era, I was like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
But, I'd say
Scott Efros is in the Yankees organization
that
still,
is
I
true.
believe.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of
Counts.
Cubs, and then obviously on the other side, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but Dodgers Mets with Hayward technically get a ring with the Dodgers, and then for the Mets, you have Q. So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm just rooting for a Cubs win. I'd like to see a Subway Series. I don't mind the Dodgers, but I'll be honest, I am a Dave Roberts hater, and so I just don't like his vibe. So sorry about that.
This is maybe one of what I think is one of my favorite and funniest things about Chicago sports fans, which is that you guys will vote or will root based on sort of very vague connections to Chicago teams or to Chicago as a place. And so it gets to the point where it's like, oh, well, Aaron Judge's third cousin's babysitter's parrot's original owner lived in Wrigleyville.
Yeah,
so
counts. Go
I will,
Yankees.
that counts, you know. And so it's always interesting to see how far you'll go to somehow end up rooting for Chicago. But I really appreciate the spirit.
And on the Juan Soto conversation, like, do we think that this moment improves his odds of staying with the Yankees? I feel like the answer is yes. But we're getting some head nods, so I'm curious to see what our people have to say.
I feel like he started off the season so great, and he had a very good year in his first year with them. So I think everyone since the start of the season has wanted him to stay there, but I don't think this moment necessarily solidifies anything. Like, Giancarlo has been insane this playoff run, so he has been their big guy, even though, of course, this Soto home run did put them in the World Series. I think that it's very exciting that they have him, even though he won't be there next year. But I think it's good for them that they have him doing well now.
I just think he's going to follow the money because the baseline of his deal is probably going to be 14 years, $350 million, and that's just going to be the starting negotiating point. Or no, not 350, like 550. He's going to get.
Yeah, it's going to be like
he's going to get an absurd amount. I saw something on Twitter. I forget who, but it was saying that these people had some database that they used, and it was some crazy number that Soto was getting, but that was just going to be where they start negotiations. And there's other owners in the league who have more money than the Yankees do, like Steve Cohen. So come over to the Mets, Soto.
I agree with that. I mean, I honestly think that it kind of does the opposite of solidifying. Even if the Yankees win the World Series, and even if that's like a defining moment of their playoff run, I'd argue that makes him an even more valuable free agent. And yes, you could argue that he'd want to stay because of them if they end up winning. But I mean, I'd say, like, for a good example is Soto himself. Like, after the Nationals won, they offered him, what was it, like $500 million or something, and he said no because I can make more.
Yeah.
So if he can make more, I can't see the Yankees being the top offer. And so if he wants it for Hart, I could see him staying. But he doesn't strike me as someone who wastes the opportunity to get this much money considering how good he is, and so I think he deserves to go on the open market and see which team will give him the money he wants.
All right, we are running a bit behind, so I want to cover NBA, but I want to do it really quick. So let's do
Whoa! Wait,
are
Sammy,
we can't skip the Dodgers.
Sammy, oh my gosh!
Oh no!
We cannot skip the Dodgers.
The game is in session right now. Well, actually, does anyone have a score?
I know it's 6-3.
Dodgers.
Okay.
Dodgers are up
Dodgers,
6-1. Vientos 2-run homer.
Yes. Dodgers
My
were
God,
up 6-1, 6-3 now after the homer, bottom of the fourth. So I mean, I'm just not gonna say anything actually about this game.
There's not much to talk. Me neither.
I'm a little stitious, and so I'm not gonna say anything here, but this has been kind of a crazy series. I don't think Dodgers fans expected to be playing the Mets. I don't think Dodgers fans expected for the series to look like this, and
Mets fans did not expect to be here.
yeah, no, I think this is really unexpected for everyone. I also feel like, as a Dodgers fan, maybe this is how Pats fans sort of felt during that era, or how Chiefs fans feel now, because it's like everyone in America wants the Subway Series, and everyone's rooting against the Dodgers, and I'm just like, I think it would be great to see Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge playing in the same
I do think that. I mean, I think either way you slice it will be fun.
And I'm a Dodgers fan, so of course I want the Dodgers in the World Series. But lot of blowouts in this series.
Yes.
Jack Flaherty had an awesome game. Harvard Westlake grad. Very proud of my high school for producing him. But so he, great start to the series, not so great Game 5, and so we're kind of looking at the rest of this year and pitching as a concern for the Dodgers for sure. But what do we think looking ahead to the World Series? What do we think would be better? Do we want the Subway Series, or is Yankees Dodgers too classic to pass up?
I mean, honestly, it doesn't really. Anyway, like Sammy said, anyway, you slice it, it'll be a great series. So I mean, I don't really mind it either way. I mean, the Subway Series would be cool to get that again after whatever it is, 30 years. But like you said, Ohtani and the rest of them are all very good players, and so to have them against Yankees Dodgers is the marquee matchup. But I guess I'd say I'm someone who tends to root for the underdog, and so for me, it's honestly not even about the Subway Series or about the Dodgers. It's just like the Mets are the underdog; they're down. Even if they don't end up winning, I'd want to see it go to a Game 7 because I just think that's fun. But we'll see. So.
Yeah, I feel like I have just kind of been rooting for a Subway Series the whole time, but when I think about it, I'm like, the Dodgers and Yankees both haven't really been good or that good at the same time. So it's very exciting to see so many star players playing each other if it gets to that. So I think it'll be a good World Series regardless, but I think it's either the good players, the very good players in Yankees Dodgers, or just the atmosphere between the two fan bases in the Subway Series.
Okay, so you're saying Francisco Lindor is not one of the top 10 players in the league? That's okay.
He's not better than Shohei or Mookie Betts or Freddie Freeman.
He's probably better than Betts and Freeman. The season he's having is better.
Yeah, I can give you that.
And then,
Sure.
But beyond that,
That's one.
I'm hoping the Mets win because this is the most I've probably ever been into baseball. And if the Dodgers make the World Series, I will probably not watch a single game in that series.
Wow, you heard it here first. I do apologize for very nearly skipping over a very important NLCS. Still going on. Could be over tonight. And yeah, I like I said, either way you slice it, I think it'll be a really fun World Series with a lot of storylines. All right, now we are going to go quickly to basketball, very quickly, because I'm going to have you guys do your finals predictions, and that is it. Because the season's starting this week, I think we have to touch on it just a tad. So we're going to go Pierson to Charlie. Finals predictions, so to give us the two teams, series score, and who's winning it. Maybe we'll revisit this in June or whatever, and see who's right. So Pierson, you go first.
As much as I don't want the Celtics to make it again, they very likely could. I mean, the East is very, very weak, and I'd say it's kind of sort of related to that. I would say that the T-Wolves. I would love to see T-Wolves Celtics. Kind of like a Kevin Garnett game. He'd probably be I don't know who he'd root for if you were to ask him. But I would just say T-Wolves. I think that Minnesota seems like a cool team to root for, especially as a Midwesterner. So yeah, I'd say score. Out of 7, I would say. I think the T-Wolves win. I'll go T-Wolves over Celtics. That'll be my pick.
There we go.
In 6.
I would have to agree about the Celtics. I don't see any team in the East right now beating them.
No Knicks?
I think the Knicks will put up a good fight.
No Bulls?
But I think it's also about... okay, maybe...
The Josh Giddey Chicago Bulls.
Kobe White.
That poster was insane.
I would love to see the Chicago Bulls in the finals, but I think the Knicks will put up a good fight if they can stay healthy. And I think it'll be Celtics Thunder in 7 is optimistic.
No chance of.
All right, Charlie, let's hear it.
All right, so first off, I want to say about the Celtics, Porzingis might not play until at least after the All-Star break because that's a big injury. So, I mean, I'm a big Knicks fan, and I kind of love what we did. And the rookies, I think they're going to be better day one than a lot of people think. I'm going to be very optimistic here, and I'm going to say Knicks in the finals, and then I'm going to go with the Suns because new coach.
I like that.
They got Coach Bud there, and last year with Vogel, he really wanted to run a more defensive-oriented team when Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker all do not want or don't really choose to play defense until they get to the playoffs, and then once they did, it's already too late. But this team, Bud's going to have him shooting. I mean, Durant, Booker, Beal, even Nurkic is more of an offensive center. So this Suns team, I feel like they're going to surprise a lot of people. And don't be shocked if they make a little playoff run because they didn't. They kind of did that a couple of years ago.
I'd root for that. I have Beal and Nurkic on my fantasy team. So
All right, so NFL football.
We
I
don't
think-
need to talk about NFL.
No.
We're going to touch on it briefly here.
Don't talk
So,
about the Giants.
here's what we're going
No,
to
we
do.
don't need to. You're talking about the Bears.
All
I
right,
agree.
no, so today,
I've never had anyone argue this much with Sammy
and
and
doing,
I over the
over
host
doing
of
the
the
NF
show over
doing football. I feel like everyone's usually wants to do football.
I
All right, here's what we're going to do.
Sorry.
So today, there were a lot of games. And, we weren't watching the Bears, obviously. No Bears something today. Just give us, each of you, one storyline from today that you found interesting. Like a game, an injury, which there were a lot of injuries. Something you found interesting and why. Try and keep it pretty brief. We got a few things left to get to here before we wrap things up.
Deshaun Watson likely out for the season with the torn Achilles, and it didn't seem like people really cared.
This is likable.
I predicted this weekend to my friends that the Lions were going to beat the Vikings. That the Vikings they're not necessarily fraudulent, but they're not as good as their record seems. And I think the Lions are the best team in the NFC, and they'll keep being good.
I'd say my storyline is the one that's going on right now. The Jets are beating the Steelers right now. I'd say
Mm.
Russell.
The Steelers just scored.
They did? Okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think it's an interesting choice for them to put Russell Wilson back in after kind of what Fields has started with. And I wasn't even a Fields truther necessarily, but I would also say that, I'm fine with Caleb, to be fair. But,
Trust.
yes.
Yeah,
But, I would say this game would just be interesting in terms of, was the impact of Devontae trade? What is the impact of Russell Wilson? Is he good enough? So that's what
a lot of storylines in that one.
Yeah.
And now college football. Lots of upsets. I'll just list off,
how crazy, can we just
This
take
whole
a moment
season.
to be this is such a, the
It's
SEC
2007.
there's predicting is completely out the window because there's no reason left to do it. Georgia destroyed Texas, which I think a lot of people saw the Dogs winning, but Texas just was outmanned. They did not play well. Illinois beat Michigan. I thought that was a pretty interesting one. Favorite upset from the week? Anybody? Georgia was a fun one.
It wasn't necessarily an upset, but I think the most fun game to watch was UCF Iowa State, because Iowa State was down by a lot. Looked like it was going to be another top 10 team falling, and then Rocco Becht crew rallied and delivered a last-second win, and it was pretty awesome.
And what I have here in our rundown, and I do want to get to this, with all these upsets, obviously the CFP, which is expanded this year, what a great year for it to be expanded, is literally up in the air. Who knows? It really, there's so many avenues for a lot of teams to sneak in. What's a sleeper you guys think is gonna get themselves in the CFP mix?
I think I've jokingly predicted a BYU Boise State championship because that just sounds
That would be so fun.
that just sounds wonderful.
Yeah, that does sound wonderful.
Boise State should have beaten Oregon, too.
Yeah. All right, Pierson, Charlie,
I'm going to say either SMU or Syracuse, because I feel like even if those teams are ranked lower, they could still win the ACC championship. And then that even begs the question, if are all Power 4 conferences going to have a team in the playoffs?
Yeah,
Because
it's a legitimate.
It could be very weird because it's just the top 5 highest ranked conference winners, not the Power 4 plus a Group of 5 team.
I'd honestly say I would go with, I think Pitt is 6-0. They definitely are a shoo-in, like Charlie said, just for the ACC. It's going to be wide open ACC playoff, or just in terms of yeah. And so I'd say that's a big one for me. Also, I would honestly say, as a Northwestern fan, it kind of hurts, and also just as a fan of Illinois sports in general. But I think Indiana definitely, if they continue playing the way they do, even if they're not necessarily on paper as strong, their momentum.
They'll be. I feel like they'll be in. I think
people are
they'll be
picking Nebraska to win against them, and they
need to beat Ohio
destroyed them.
Right. That's a take care of business kind of game.
Every game.
What Signetti has done over there is
I win Google
ridiculous.
Yeah,
I
that was
win
such a great
Google
quote. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
This recruiting process.
Yeah, but give him credit. And yeah, I think we got our college football, got our NFL, nice and quick, and I think it's time to move on to our last segment here.
I do think it's time to move on to draft day. I think that was really efficient from us. We had a lot of fun with the Yankees earlier. We had a lot of fun with Pick'em, so we really had to speed through that. But it was not for a lost cause, because now we're at draft day. We're gonna do a little snake draft, this time of sports venues. We want you guys to. This is kind of a bit of a a nice reference for Sammy and me because our first Sports Voice together, the
Something similar,
draft
yeah.
question, we also had to draft. It was college sports venues.
I believe, yeah.
But this time, we're opening things up. We're dreaming even bigger, and so we're going to do a little bit of a snake draft here. Everyone's going to pick their favorite sports venues, and we'll judge the lineups at the end of it. So we'll start with Pierson.
So do we get how many? Are we drafting 5?
Well,
We'll
draft. I think we have
Let's
time
do
for
a three-round
Yeah.
snake draft.
Okay.
Yeah, and give maybe a sentence or two of reasoning. I mean, as much as I want to hear everyone talk about how incredible Wrigley Field is, which should be the number 1 pick, but I'm not to sway things.
And to that thing, my number 1 pick will be Wrigley Field. And as much as I like as cool as PNC and Oracle are, and obviously the historicness of Fenway and also Dodger Stadium, I'd say that Wrigley is just unmatched. Earlier this summer, I was at the Cardinals game at Busch, and I was just like, it's okay, but Wrigley's better.
I'll have to take Oracle Park. I was in San Francisco this summer and I saw it, and it is just such a nice ballpark. Yeah.
I have 2 picks here, right?
Yes.
All
Because
right.
we're doing snakes.
I'm
so
going to
you have
go with the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden,
course.
because it's not even just sports. It hosts 2 major sports teams, and then also you got concerts. I mean, Billy Joel is a legend there.
Yeah, I saw my first concert there recently, yeah.
And then also, I'm going to go with a bit of an interesting one. I'm going to pick the Colosseum in Rome, because that is technically a sporting venue.
That is a great pick.
That is technically a sporting venue, and it is also one of the wonders of the world. So I feel like that gives it brownie points.
That's a good pick.
I have to say, at first, I thought you were saying the Coliseum is in home of the USC Trojans. I was going to be
Claire was not happy about
I've literally
that.
said I'm a Bruins fan. What is he doing here? That is maybe one of the most creative draft answers.
That's a good one. I like it. All right, so
back to Jonah.
I think I'm going to go with Lumen Field in Seattle. It's always known as the loudest stadium in the NFL. I think the Chiefs try to argue that they're better, and I know I picked Mahomes earlier, but I think the Seahawks are a very fun team, a fun franchise, and I think their stadium seems very cool, and it's loud. They've got loud fans.
Oh, so I get 2 picks here too. I would say my first one, I'll go with SoFi. I know it's like kind of a new stadium. It doesn't have the history, but I'd just say like that round video board is really cool, and I'd love to be there at some point. And also the home of swimming at the 2020 Olympics. So,
Sure.
And then with my last pick, this is a tough one. You know what? I think I'm gonna go with Northwestern Medicine Field at
Yeah.
Yeah.
You took my pick.
Oh, wow, look at that.
I think there's nothing need to be said about that. I mean, it's a great venue, and it's cool. It's gonna be cool to have that for the next 2 years. So.
As a consolation pick for what a great idea to pick Northwestern Stadium, I think I'll have to go with the least lucky stadium in the NFL, FedEx Field, formerly known as FedEx Field.
Wow.
What a pick!
It's just
That was bold. All right.
I think it's just.
Have you been to FedEx Field?
I have not.
I have unfortunately been in Northwest Stadium. Yes, this is true. No longer FedEx Field. Not the best place to see a football game.
The reason I will pick it is because
is it the sewage falling from the ceiling?
It makes it so that Soldier Field is not the worst stadium in the NFL.
Oh, okay.
MetLife's there.
That's as good a reasoning as you can
MetLife's pretty bad. For my last pick, I could have gone with Welsh Ryan, but I feel like that's too much of a basic answer. I'm gonna go with Churchill Downs. It's home to one of the most famous sporting events not only in the country but also in the world. I mean, people come from all over the world to see the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah,
and it's a big market for sports betting.
This
is a fun one. I don't know if we need to deliberate. I don't know if we're on the same page here.
I think we might be. I mean, I was gonna say I had one auto win, which was Augusta National. My mom grew up in Augusta, Georgia, so that's a special place for the family.
Or Poly Pavilion, I think would have been an auto win for Claire.
I don't know if Poly Pavilion. It's
really doesn't do it for you. Okay.
I mean, you gotta love the Rose Bowl maybe, but But Augusta National I think might have been an auto win. No one mentioned it. I think I have to go with Charlie on this one. I think MSG, Coliseum, but the one in Rome, and Churchill Downs is just too iconic for FedEx Field and SoFi Stadium to touch.
I love the creativity, and I love the versatility, right? You got MSG where you could see You could see the Knicks. You could see a concert, which isn't
Hockey.
sports. You could see hockey. See the Rangers.
UFC,
UFC. I mean, so many things there. Coliseum, which is like iconic, probably the oldest thing you could possibly conceive of on this list. And then Churchill Downs, which is also one of the older things you could think of on this list, and you know, just iconic.
By a much smaller
By
margin.
a much smaller margin, yes. Wrigley is also up there. Pained me not to pick Pierson's team with Wrigley, but Charlie with the last pick,
They were so creative.
some creativity takes everyone else down, and it is 9:00. That is Sports Voice, Claire, and a really fun episode with the 3 first timers on Sports Voice. How about it?
That was so much fun. I hope all 3 of you are back on Sports Voice sometime soon. Sammy, it's great as always to be here. So to Chicago and to our parents.
I'm gonna go
good
to the
night.
control room. Good night, everybody. We will see you next week, 8:00 Central Time. We'll be back.